and welcome to the Euro Trip Football Podcast. It's time for another season preview with the Premier League season less than a week away, and this time it's a turn of Brighton Hove Albion, a club that I grew a particular soft spot for during my time at Brighton Uni and having the chance to work at Brighton games for across the season. So very exciting stuff to be talking about Brighton, and I'm here for the first time on the podcast. With me today is Jonny Elliott. How are you, mate?
Good, thanks. Really good. Thanks a lot for having me. Looking forward to it.
Pleasure's all mine, mate. Looking forward to talking all things Brighton with you. Now, we like to ask every newbie to the podcast, whether it's my NFL one, whether it's my football one, as to why they support the team they do. So for you, Jonny, why Brighton?
It was mostly my dad, really. My dad supported Brighton, and Brighton have always been pretty much the local team. And yeah, he used to go a bit when he was younger, and I kind of got into it when about 2010, 2011, when I went to my first game at the Withdean, and it was an interesting stadium, put it that way. It's basically an athletics track, and it was League One, and yeah, that's where I started my journey. And then yeah, I mean, it's from going to that first game to now. I mean, if you'd have said to me back then, 12 years ago, that we'd be in Europe, I'd have said you're an idiot. So yeah, it's been a good journey, but that's pretty much how I got into it. And I'm just very fortunate that I'm a season ticket holder and it's half an hour down the road and we're in Europe now and it's just so easy to get down there. And where I'm quite lucky as well is I'm quite a realistic Brighton fan because obviously we're not a massive club. Getting a season ticket and everything like that's quite easy. Getting away tickets is quite easy. You know, whereas like, I don't know, like a Newcastle or something like that, it's or Liverpool's like a however long waiting list. I'm quite a fortunate and quite a happy Brighton fan, put it that way.
I mean, I can certainly vouch for the Liverpool thing. I mean, paying for membership the last 5-6 years, I've never once got a ticket. It's just impossible. I mean,
unbelievable.
It's sort of like if you could have hit I don't know what the term is. Basically, if you'd been going to a lot of games years ago before this thing came in, you'd be laughing now because you've already gone to X amount of games on your record. But of course, nowadays, someone who normally goes to 2 or 3 times a year at most, try and get tickets now, it's impossible. And back years ago, I got tickets quite easily in the early. I know we were worse back under Hodgson and Dalglish, like early 2010s. It was very easy. Went to 2 or 3 games a year, very easy. But nowadays, you have to sort of resort to a touting, which is never great. It's you are paying,
yeah.
But there's the odd game where it's like only 30-40 pound more. And I went to Norwich game and the Newcastle game a couple of years ago, as well as Brighton, and it's they're about 100 quid each or something. And then looking last season, I went to watch who do we play last? I forget who he played last year. I saw us play, but Wolves, that was it. And literally, I was like 100 quid. So yeah, you're paying a bit of money more.
Yeah.
That's the way it is these days. And I'm sure, that's Man U fans, Arsenal fans, City fans, and I'm sure it's the same thing. And it's a shame that sadly a lot of tickets do go to a lot of sadly tourist fans, which I'm very
absolutely
happy to get bigger worldwide, but I'd rather go myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I'm very lucky. Obviously, just very grateful. I think a lot of some of the newer Brighton fans, the kind of cling-ons, if you like. It's not like a Man City, but similar in a way of there's some corporate now. There's a lot of people in the West Stand that are kind of secret Arsenal, Man U fans, etc., etc. And I just hope it doesn't go that way too much. But no, I'm very lucky in the fact, like I say, that it's mostly not really like that. And very grateful Brighton fan. I think a lot of Brighton fans are like, oh, I can't believe this. We lost to this team. The bottom line is we're overachieving. Like, we're Brighton and Hove Albion. We came 6th in the Premier League. That's overachieving. So, I mean, there's bigger clubs in the Championship. There is. I'm not stupid. But obviously, like I say, just very fortunate and really looking forward to the Europa League. And I've already smoothed over the wife, said, right, we're going to a European away day. I sold it to her like, look, we can go as a family holiday, 3 nights. I'm just going to nip off one night and go to the football, and that's it. We'll watch the draw, choose the sunniest away trip. Hopefully, like a Sevilla or something like that would be nice. And look, how many times are we going to come finish in the European places? Not many. So just proper bucket list for me. That an away day in Europe with Brighton is just, I can't even believe I'm saying it, to be honest.
Yeah, fantastic, and it probably is a one-off, maybe two-off if you do manage to keep like Caicedo. I mean, look at teams like Swansea, Southampton, you know,
Exactly.
again,
Yeah.
European football recently. Look what's happened to them since. You got to really appreciate where you are now, and just really not take it for granted because as those two teams have proven, Southampton more recently, these opportunities don't come again, and Swansea haven't returned to Premier League since going down. So I think you've really got to make the most because, like Leicester, we've seen this season, maybe if you have time, you forget that these teams were in the Championship not long ago. So sort of you get used to them in the Premier League, and teams like Stoke, for example, were
Yeah.
amazing for many years, and then they're now like they've been in the Premier League since 2018. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just make the most and really enjoy and really make the most of that.
Well,
That might be your only year in Europe.
completely agree. Completely agree. 100%.
Just curious, you mentioned because I lived in Brighton a couple of years ago. You mentioned you were close by. Whereabouts are you based? Are you?
So just near Peace Pottage, so it's just straight down the A23, really. So yeah, just fairly close to Crawley. So I'm
Right,
slightly closer to Crawley, so that would probably be my local. But I just never had that attachment. Dad never went there. Just never had that attachment to them. That's probably the closest team. But yeah, like I say, Dad had the attachment there. Went with him a couple of times. Followed it a lot in League One and the Gus Poyet days, and then we went up from there. We dominated League One that year, and then we knocked on the Championship door for ages. A few Championship playoff heartbreaks where we didn't quite get up automatically, and then we lost to Palace in the playoffs one year. Zaha ran rings around us, so we're knocking on the door for ages, and then we finally got our break. And then really, the first few years in the Premier League was trying to stay up naturally, which we just about did. And then I think some Brighton fans now are a little bit negative about Potter, but I'm obviously very grateful for what he did for us because he kind of took us to the next level. I think people forget the impact that he had. It's very easy to now dislike him because he left, but I'm very grateful of Houghton for taking us up to the Premier League. I really am. But would he have taken us as close to Europe as Potter did? I don't think so. So, yeah, there's a very good manager there, by the way, for whoever club has him. Yes, it didn't work out at Chelsea, but there's not many managers that it does work out with at Chelsea, let's be honest. So, just literally, I just go straight down south, down the A23, and I'm straight there. And it's actually pretty much on the A23. It's just dead easy to get to. And yeah, like I say, I'm quite lucky because we are getting busier and things like that. Like the first game's already a sellout. I think West Ham, the second game's already a sellout and stuff like that. So I think because we're in Europe now, we're generating a bit more interest in people wanting to watch us. But even so, it's still dead easy. It's 30,000. It's not, it's not 80,000. So it's still, it's just dead easy. I can leave work an hour before kickoff, get there in plenty of time, just shoot down there. I park now near the uni, so I park that side of the road. You probably know the underpass where you get under and out by the station. So I just park. There's a little car park there. I go underneath, straight up the stairs, over the station. I'm in the north stand, which is literally just there. It's just so easy. So it's just sometimes scary how easy it is to go there and watch like Man City, the best team in the world, just down the road. So very fortunate.
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar thing too in terms of that. I lived in Five Ways during my master's degree at Brighton.
Yeah.
So literally, it was like a 5 minute walk to the train station, and then literally like a 4 minute journey, and it was like 4, 5, 6 quid with a rail card, return, open. And it was brilliant, and I'm very thankful to have had the opportunity to work at Brighton during my time, do my sports journalism masters, and I did the Man U game when they won 4-0.
Brilliant.
So I saw them being like literally like really close to Cristiano Ronaldo and people like Maguire, Bruno Fernandes, Rashford, Mata, all them. And then obviously for me, being a Liverpool fan, getting to Liverpool Brighton, the year we almost won a quadruple, getting to be in the same press conference as Jurgen Klopp. And of course, Graham Potter, you mentioned Graham Potter, a man that I asked questions to you a few times. He was always very good at his time, and toward the end, he sort of got to know recognise my face towards the end, and also I think I was actually at his last ever game because it was the Leicester game, and then there was Leeds or Leicester, whichever one it was, where literally then the Queen died, and then Potter, then he left I think on the same day or the day before the Queen died. I've always played for him, and I always say this. I said it on the time and on the podcast when it all broke down that you can't do now Chelsea. I know they've got a bad history as managers, but at the same time, Chelsea are a massacre. They won 2 European Cups. Like in the day, like Potter, it's not like he's from Brighton. It's not like in the day, like it's like if he
I agree.
had Man U or Arsenal after he left, and I think even De Zerbi. I think if De Zerbi does well next, and he has someone like I say Arteta leaves, I don't know, for some reason, or even Klopp leaves and we want De Zerbi. Like, you can't turn that down. And I think that whilst, I understand that it's sad that he left, but really, I think personally, we'll probably go into this in a bit, but De Zerbi for me, actually, I think is a better manager than Potter right now because
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
found that
crazy. It's
Potter's
crazy.
biggest issue was scoring goals, I found, and De
Yeah,
Zerbi's come in, they look better and they've gone
yeah,
on since. So I
yeah.
don't think they be too annoyed, but I know certain few Brighton fans, I know that
No, yeah,
want
I'm not.
them
I'm
to
not one of them.
fine.
I've got nothing against Potter as well. I think it's very easy to look at it and go, oh, this, and that. But I think it's partly. I'm fine with him. Really, am fine with him. But I think it's partly that taking all the backroom stuff with him. And Bruno is just like a complete and utter club legend. Just a complete legend at the club. And for him to take Bruno and to take Ben Roberts, the goalkeeping coach, it was just honestly when it happened, I was heartbroken. My immediate thought was, that's it now. That we're going to go that way. Like honestly, I was convinced because Potter wasn't just a manager; he was a complete. He was the whole thing about the club, the style of football, everything. They all played for him. Everyone raved about him, and he was a bit more than just a manager. I guess it's similar to Klopp. It's not just a manager. He's part of the football club. He's part of the style. So when all of that got taken away, I was like, well, what do we do now? Where do we go? And then we got someone in that, let's be honest, a lot of us hadn't heard of. A lot of the diehards, maybe, but a lot of us hadn't heard of. And I thought, oh god. And I think he lost his first game, and so didn't start too well. And yeah, now, yeah, arguably, yeah, I would agree. He's better. He's absolutely brilliant. And I'll be honest, he's probably too good for us. If I'm honest, he is probably too good for us, and his stock is so high. And I don't blame clubs that want him. I think Tottenham sniffed around for him a little bit before they got Ange. So yeah, I love him to pieces, like any Brighton fan would. But yeah, like you say, I think the bottom line is don't take it for granted. Enjoy him while he's here because he probably will go to a bigger club, and you never know. The next appointment might not be as good. And like I say, just don't take anything for granted because you've used plenty of examples there where clubs that we looked at that we thought were going to be sixth or seventh for ages aren't. Burnley have only just come back. They were in Europe 1 year, is another example. So they really come and go so quickly. Southampton are a big club and they're gone now. And their team they had in the Europa League was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal team. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. We took half their team as well, so I got a lot to thank them for as well with
yeah.
Mane, Van Dijk, and the like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, before we go on to the summer transfer window, just a couple more questions. First of all, your favourite ever Brighton player, and also your favourite Brighton memory since becoming a fan of the team.
Favourite Brighton player is actually quite easy. A player I'm borderline obsessed with, Lewis Dunk.
Nice.
I just love him. Like I try not to get too excited. He's just such a club legend, and he was at my first ever game at the Withdean. He was about 17 years old. I think he started or he came up off the bench. So he's been at the club the whole time while I've supported the club in 12 years. So proper club legend. Turned down a couple of, I think Chelsea were really sniffing after him, 40, 50 million, and he turned it down to stay at the club. And I'm not a biased Brighton fan whatsoever. Some people say I would, but I'm really not. He's really, really good. He's a really, really good centre back. And I always bang the drum about England constantly, but he should at the very least, be in that squad. If he's the kind of player like where a lot of people don't watch Brighton week in, week out. It's the kind of player when you watch Brighton, you speak to any Brighton fan and they'll tell you how good Lewis Dunk is. Like he is. We talk about Maguire, and I know he gets a lot of stick, and he is decent for England. In my opinion, Lewis Dunk is a quite comfortably a better centre back than Harry Maguire. So, yeah, and it's just partly that he's just really good. Not only is he's kind of everything. He's a good passer. He plays through balls. He's sometimes on free kicks for us. That says it all. There's not many centre backs that take free kicks. So he's a good passer. He's strong. He's good in the air. He's a good decision maker. And it's just nice to watch him grow through the years. He was always good, but he was a bit error prone. But he's now at a stage where he's just basically the complete centre back. And the hole we're going to have when he goes is going to be scary. So it's partly, like I say, that kind of one club man, been there all his life, captain. He's kind of Mr. Brighton, if you like. It's partly that. And it's partly, I would say previously an unsung hero, but I think people are coming round now as to how important he is for us. Yeah, I just absolutely love the guy. And I just think if he went to Chelsea a year or two ago, he'd start every game. I mean, Arsenal are a bit different now. Most clubs in the Premier League he would start for, in my opinion. He'd probably fit in alongside Van Dijk, do a really good job. He's just class. He's just, like I say, he's got everything. He hasn't really got a weakness. He's just top drawer. And I think it's partly, I think the England thing maybe is style. I think obviously the modern way is your Ben Whites, is your footballers, you know. And maybe he's a bit old-fashioned, kind of John Terry-esque. Obviously, John Terry was world-class, but he's a bit of the old-fashioned defender. And I guess it's partly he's the wrong age now. I think Southgate obviously wants to bring in the youth like a Colwill or whatever and tries to bring them through, whereas Dunk is kind of towards the end of his career. And I know he did get a call-up very recently, but he kind of been nursing an injury, so he had to withdraw, which was, again, very upsetting because I've been banging the drum for ages for England. He finally got called up, and then he had to withdraw from injury. So I hope he gets another look in. But yeah, I'll better shut up now because I could talk about Lewis Dunk all day. I love him to pieces, but he's just absolutely top drawer.
Yeah, I mean, I going back to my time there when I first started doing the sort of the media stuff, and when I did Liverpool game for the first time, it was still COVID-y. But that was the first game that when he beat Man U 4-0, the first game where I got to actually go in the mix zone and speak to players, which is how I got to be in and around the likes of Ronaldo and Mata and all them. And I remember I got to ask questions to Trossard and Dunk.
Yeah.
So Dunk was probably not in the best mood. I think he was a bit knackered. He wasn't exactly the most talkative, whereas Trossard was a bit more. And certainly when I, in the next game I got to, it was when I interviewed Enoch Wepu, who obviously sadly that was his last ever professional game. He was very lovely. But Dunk, I can't really have a go at him because at the end of the day, for me, it's like you played a night, like same as Klopp. Klopp wasn't in a good mood either. And I think it's down to you just played a whole 90-minute game, 100% you've given, and obviously in that game they just beat Man U 4-0. So obviously he was at his best that game. And like you, I think he's a great defender, and I think he deserved at least more caps. Same as sort of me and the Grant Holtz or Charlie Austin sort of thing when they were in there at their best. But I think that in a day he's had a big game. He's probably done a lot of media duties already. The last thing he'll do. I gotta say, a nobody really. I am really a nobody. So at the moment in the media world, I'm not at the level of like a Laurel Woods or a Sam Matterface or back in the day, Clive Tilsley. I'm not at that stage, so I don't expect them to really give him time of day. So I don't really hold it against him. But it would have been nice to have had more of a chat than we did. But either way, I can't really hold it against him. Now, favourite memory. Now, it's maybe obvious. Would it be qualifying for Europe, or there another maybe event for you that stands out more?
It's very interesting, yeah. So as a general rule, yes, definitely. As a moment, my first ever we'll probably come on to talk a little bit about the rivalry now, but the Palace rivalry is a really interesting one because I always say this to people is where the rivalry came from is borderline. And I can understand people going, hang on a minute, where's the rivalry come from? But I always say to people that it does exist. Trust me, I've seen it, and it does exist. And I'm not saying it's as big as a Liverpool Everton or a Liverpool Man United or a Rangers Celtic. I'm not saying that. But when people go, oh yeah, this rivalry is fake rivalry, it's not fake. So the first time I went to Selhurst Park, it's just absolutely brilliant. Like I say, it's just a different game. And the first game I went to was I don't know if you remember the Mopé lob in the last minute.
I don't actually know.
So we were poor that day, actually, and Palace Zaha scored a penalty, and you can imagine being a Brighton fan, Zaha, he's kind of our enemy a little bit. We don't really like him because he's kind of Mr. Crystal Palace. But anyway, he's gone now. We won't go there. But anyway, so they controlled the game, and literally the last minute, it became a meme because one of the guys shouted in the crowd, "Don't let the ball bounce." It was a long kick, Bill down the field. It bounced. Mopé's lobbed the goalkeeper in the last minute, and it finished 1-1. But I mean, I was on the concrete within about half a second after he scored. Like the scenes were absolutely scary. We were like a couple of the guys were on the pitch and everyone went berserk. And yeah, so that was my first game at Palace away, which was pretty special because the atmosphere was incredible. And then that happening, it was a pretty special moment, to be fair. So as a moment goes, as like a split second moment where I was like euphoria, that was it. But as a general rule, I'd say qualifying for Europe, yes, as well as Premier League was amazing. Was amazing. Getting promoted to the Premier League was incredible. And again, something I didn't really think was possible. So that was equally as special as Europe, I'd say. Yeah, Europe may be more surprising, But in terms of that amazing feeling of, wow, I can't believe we did it, going to get into the Premier League was pretty cool.
I can imagine. I've seen the pictures of the seafront with the bus parade. It looked like, I know how busy that place can get, especially that time of year. So that must have been just a spectacular, spectacular moment. Now moving on to your ins and outs this off season. A guy that's very close to my heart, James Milner, has joined you on a free. Other ones, really, no real other major ones, excluding João Pedro and Mahmoud Dahoud. I think I pronounced that right. From Borussia Dortmund, which is a fantastic coup. And then a lot of outs. Obviously, the main one really is one that's benefited my team. And at Liverpool, and McAllister, who's gone for, I believe, is around about £40 million. I forget the fee. And that's
it's a funny one because some say 35 and some say 55. I think that the Brighton want to claim the 55 and the Liverpool want to claim the 35. So I think it's 35 rising to 54 with very kind of basic add-ons, e.g. 10 appearances kind of stuff. But yeah, 40, 50 odd. He's a good player. He's a good player. I think you've got a good player. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him play. And the FPL users, he's only 6 million. So I think that's certainly a guy you should look at. And then the other really, Aaron Connolly's left. I actually remember seeing him score for Brighton at Bristol Rovers about 2 years ago. And then the one that happened literally about a day ago, Robert Sanchez to Chelsea. So cool. How happy are you with the overall transfer business of Brighton this summer?
Yeah, fairly happy because it was always a case for us of keeping what we have. We came sixth, so it's a case of we don't really need to progress. We're already overachieving. So it's not a case of what we bring in. It's more a case of keeping what we have. And I'm obviously, as I said, a very realistic Brighton fan of understanding that players outgrow the club. We are quite similar to the Southampton back then model, which was, I wouldn't say we're a selling club. I think that's harsh, but players outgrow us. Caicedo is outgrown us. Caicedo is better than us. I'm happy to sit here and say that. There are players that are incredible that probably are a bit too good for Brighton, and so it's more keeping hold of them. And the McAllister one was a bit of a shame because there was a bit of a release clause there, so it was kind of slightly cheaper than we'd hoped with the whole World Cup tax. So that was a little bit of a shame, but I don't begrudge him the move, obviously. Liverpool are a much, much, much bigger club than us. So, I don't begrudge him his move. And like I say, the thing's interesting. I think where we're good is, and some people would disagree, but we have the price. That's the price. And if you want to pay it, we did the same with Cucurella. That's the price. If you want to pay 55, 60 million for him, pay it. If not, we'll keep the player. So, are we a better team with Caicedo? Of course we are. Of course we are. But we've said to him, if we get the right price, you can go. We're not lying, but Tony Bloom wants his price. And I think now that Liverpool, by the sounds of it, have bid, I know it's was a bit secretive, but it looks like they had a bid turned down. The Saudi Arabia random club has come in and bid as well. I don't think he wants that move apparently, but I think now more clubs are in. I can understand them holding out for closer to 100. I mean, if it was 90 to 95 or something like that, then I probably would say, it's a lot of money for us. Off you go. But I can understand at the same time why Bloom's going. I think by all accounts, the Rice thing changed things a little bit. He probably Rice is a great player, but I think he saw Rice go for 105 and he thought, well, Caicedo's a similar kind of player. Yes, you're paying more for the English, but the English kind of player tax, obviously. But it'd be an interesting one to see that because in Caicedo's head, he's gone. He's agreed terms. It's just about agreeing the fee. But it looks like we're going for Kudus in the last couple of days. Mohamed Kudus from Ajax, who looks like a really good talent. It looks like we've beaten off Arsenal, Chelsea. There's some big names there that will link with him. So it looks to me like we bought him as a replacement. I think we haven't quite agreed terms yet with the player, but we've agreed a deal with Ajax. So he looks like a good player. It reeks to me of him replacing Caicedo. We had our final preseason game today. Caicedo wasn't in the squad. So I still think he will go. But other than that, So going back to the original point, I think keeping what we have is more important. But where we seem to be very good, and I'm not sure how long this can last, is we seem to lose key players and at least stay the same somehow. Basuma, by the way, I was a huge fan of. I thought he was a fantastic player. When we lost him, I thought, oh God, didn't matter. We've got Caicedo. We lost Trossard, who's a fantastic player. Matoma came through and Cisso's coming through. So it always seems like we have an answer. Potter went, De Zerbi came in. So I know the club always has plans for eventualities. And the bottom line, really, to be honest with you, is I trust my club. I trust my club. I have no reason not to trust my club. I think we're one of, if not the best run club in the country in terms of running a half decent. I know all clubs lose money, but the amount of times we'll sell Cucurella for 55, sold Ben White for 50, and not, we signed, put it this way, Pedro is our record signing at 30 million. And where we've overachieved is we still have our wage cap, if you like. I think our most ever paid player is 100 grand a week. I'm pretty confident it's not more than that. So we can't go. I saw some rumors about Jadon Sancho a few weeks ago. We can't sign him. We can't. We can't pay his wages. So that's where I think we've done so well, is we are still playing by certain rules. E.g., we can't signing young players for the future. We make profit on them. They grow at Brighton. And then we move them on for profits and we try and replace them. So, yeah, I think the bottom line is whatever the club chooses, why would I not trust the club in the recent history of what we've done? So,
does that almost
whatever will be, will be.
Does that almost fill you with confidence, the fact that, you mentioned with players, and he's even going on to getting Stupin to replace Cucurella, and even the further back, the fact that he got rid of Matt Ryan and eventually got someone like Sanchez in. So I think exactly what you say, that was really one thing I was going to get into. So you've explained it wonderfully for me, which is great. About how good you are at replacing players. I think that, everything you mentioned just then, and of course the Cucurella one as well, does that sort of almost fill you with confidence, the fact that if Caicedo is to leave, which it seems like he is, another player seemingly going to Brighton, to Chelsea, do you think that in the end, I think trust is massive, because I got a lot of time for man. I still love the guy, but I didn't trust Rodgers to make good signings. Whereas especially when Mike Edwards is there with Klopp, I trust him. Any signing we make or play we get go, 9 times out of 10, I'm happy with it, and I trust the team to make the right decisions in the front office and things like that. So, and also you said that the trust there, and I think there's been a lot of great movements over the last few years at Brighton, and for everything we talked about just then. So does that almost fill you with confidence that if Caicedo is to leave, you'll be absolutely fine?
It's a really good question. Confidence, yes, based on results, really, based on how we've done things before, but not an arrogance of, I know we'll be fine. Like, how long can this last? Like I said, Southampton did it a lot, and look where they are. So it's a confidence in I trust my club, but it's still not a take for granted. If we sell all our best players, we will get worse. So we might stay in the league, but we will get worse. So, but yeah, the Cucurella one was a perfect example. I loved him. He was brilliant for us. He was player of the season. Gutted when he left. Stupinan came in. I saw him for 4 or 5 games. Said to all my mates, Stupinan's better, and they all laughed at me. Oh yeah, you're typical Brighton, kind of bias, typical Brighton bias. It very much appears to me that Stupinan is better player than Cucurella, which is madness. It's madness, and I know that's opinion based. And again, a lot of times he's at Chelsea, he's not getting regular football. He's still a good player, but if you'd have said to me that we'd sell Cucurella for 55, bring Purvis in for 15, and he'd be better, again, I'd think you're crazy. So yes, a confidence based on, it hasn't happened once. It's happened 4, 5, 6 times where we've sold key players and been fine. But at the same time, we can't keep doing it. So I think he realizes that, hence why he's gone so high with the Caicedo fee, because he is a key player. So yeah, I trust the club, but I think Caicedo and McAllister's a bit of a hole. I like Gilmour a lot. I think he's a huge talent, but he's quite young. And look, Caicedo's young as well, but he's just top draw. And Gilmour I like a lot, but he's still learning. And yeah, Dahoud looks very good as well, but he looks solid. But yeah, I trust the club. I think, and we'll come on to predictions. Actually, I know you're going to ask me about that. I think if Caicedo goes, we won't come 6th. Put it that way.
Yeah, and that will be at the end. I mean, we got about 8 minutes left of our recording, so
Cool.
we will
Mm-hmm.
get on to that right at the end. Just final point, you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
right at the start about Europa League, of course, very exciting for Brighton playing European football this year. Now, can you see a bit like West Ham last season with Europa League or still Conference League alongside Premier League and not a massive amount of depth? Does that worry you in terms of, whilst it'll be amazing seeing Brighton Europa League, do you think that will potentially affect the league position? I know we're going to mention it in a bit, but also just how excited are you in terms of is there a particular team that maybe you'd want to see you play away from home? You mentioned your holidays and all that with the family. Speaking of game there, yeah, that's sort of two questions in one. But yeah, for
Yeah.
you, league position, but also, yeah, is there a game that sort of you'd love to go to, a team that you could play in Europa League?
Yeah. So somewhere hot, to be honest. Somewhere like I say, I mean, I think possibilities. We're not going to be obviously in pot one, so pot one teams look like they're going to be places like Villarreal. I think Benfica might have been in there. So somewhere like that, going to that kind of atmosphere, a big European stadium in a hot climate, because it's going to be October, November time. So I always have a few laughs with my mates, and like we don't really want it to be Iceland away or Andorra or something like that. So yeah, no, obviously the bigger clubs are in the Champions League, but yeah, someone like a Sevilla or a Benfica or something like that would be incredible. And really good first question. I think it will have a slight knock-on effect playing in Europe, yes, but I don't think it's going to have as big as effect as some people might think. I think it's a bit of a out of proportion narrative, possibly. Um, we'll come on to the prediction, but I still think we're going to finish in the top half. I just don't think we're going to finish sixth. So I will have an effect, but we've still got a lot of very good players. And I don't think it's going to have a West Ham effect where they were fighting relegation for as long as they were. I don't think it's going to quite have that effect. And the bottom line is, I'm buzzing to be in the Europa League. I'm just absolutely buzzing. So, in terms of expectation of Europa League, this is going to sound a bit weird. I don't really mind. We're in the Europa League. I'm buzzing. Like we're overachieving. To go to European nights at the Amex is just brilliant. And of course, I want us to do well, but I'm just happy to be there. Really, do you know what I mean? And anything else is a bonus. Really,
Yeah,
just enjoying the ride.
I think you're right. I think that we mentioned before about maybe it's one season you have ever in Europe, and I think that you have to simply make the most. And I think that for one season, if you finish 14th and win, even get to knockout stages, or even just have an amazing journey where you get to play someone like a Benfica. Now that'll be amazing because I've been to that stadium and the city itself, and it's brilliant. And you mentioned Iceland. I've just been to Iceland, and I would highly recommend it. So
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, it's brilliant. Just a bit cold, maybe, but it
yeah,
looks amazing.
incredible. Some of the things I saw
Yeah,
were outrageous.
yeah.
Right, final segment. Now you are our 10th guest on the podcast. It's intriguing how you compare to the others. But for you, Jonny, where is your team finishing in the league this season?
I think my team is finishing eighth. I think we will drop a little bit because of European football and losing, by the looks of it, a couple of key players, because I do think I said it will go. And even if he doesn't go, I think there's going to be a bit of reintegration. He needs to get his head sorted. He's probably not going to start the season. So I think we will drop a little bit, but and again, not trying to be big headed at all. We've got a lot of good players, like a lot. Um, Ferguson's an unbelievable talent. Matoma's an unbelievable talent. Solly's very underrated. We've got a lot of good players. I've talked a lot about Dunky. Stupiñán's fantastic. We've got two good goalkeepers. We've got another lad called Adingra who I'd watch out for this year. He looks unbelievable in pre-season. So another one hopefully coming through, another wonder kid. And Ciso looked amazing at the end of last year. So the depth is getting there. I think as well, Pedro so far in pre-season has looked very, very good. So the depth is getting there. Be nice to have a couple more. But yeah, I think we won't quite do so well. I'd be surprised if we didn't finish in the top half. Just because I think, like I say, we've just got some really good players, and I think there are. I hope I'm not wrong. I really don't know. I hope I don't eat my words. I think there are 10 worst teams in the league next year. I do. I just think we just play. Obviously, the style of football is really good. I trust the manager. We have a lot of the ball. I think our XG created last year was second in the league, I believe, behind Man City. So create a lot of chances. Yes, we can be a bit wasteful at times, but I'm just confident. Like I say, I'm confident in the club. I'm confident in the style. I'm confident in the way we play. I'm confident in the manager. And there's a lot of talent in there. So not quite as good as last year, but yeah, I'll go eighth. I think we'll be fringes of Europe and Europa Conference League again, and we might just miss out just from the tired legs possibly. But yeah, just slight drop off, but still a very good side.
Fantastic. And that is where we will end the podcast. That is the conclusion of our Brighton season preview. So, first of all, Jonny, thank you for coming on.
Pleasure. Thanks very much for having me. I've enjoyed it.
No problem at all. Pleasure's all mine. Before we do go, if you'd like me to, decision's yours. But if you want to plug your social media, now's your chance. How can people find you online?
Thanks very much. Yes, so I do a pod myself that I've just kind of recently started up called Elite Sports Debate. So that's on, I think it's at Elite Sports Debate on YouTube. I do most of the YouTube stuff and do an FPL one as well. I know you briefly touched on FPL, but I'm an FPL nerd, so like a proper nerd. So we do an FPL weekly. It's called so that's FPL weekly on Insta and on YouTube and on Twitter, and that's obviously going to start. We do it every week, but it's going to start ramping up very soon. And yeah, I love my football, as you could probably tell, but I'm really getting into FPL as well. And it's for those that don't know, it's just a very interesting. It's more interesting than a lot of people think, and it's very tactical and it's growing as well. More and more players each year play it, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, those two.
Amazing. Now I actually retired from FPL twice now, but I've been drawn back in because Javan, he's doing a 3 entry and it's £1,000 for the winner. So I'm doing one league and that's it. I've got into some of my team 5.5 million, but I'm doing it purely because I want to win that money. Otherwise, I'll try. I try to avoid it because it causes me a lot of stress when you take out a player and then they start scoring and vice versa. So
100%. No, it's actually really true, and a lot of people don't understand that. It can be really, really genuinely really frustrating when you plan and spend loads of time on it and then you make a good pick and something bad happens. So yeah, I try and keep it as fun as possible, but I completely get it. It's very time consuming as well. So
without that,
yeah.
But yeah, I have been the Eurotrip podcast. I've been Andy. This has been Jonny, and we will see you guys next time.
Thanks very much.
England 4, Germany 1, Michael Owen is number 1.